The stars had never known peace until the Galactic Council arrived. For thousands of years, they had watched over 847 different species across 3 galaxies. They made rules. They kept order. They stopped wars before they could start. And they did all of this because they had power that no one could challenge. At the top of this great council stood 3 beings. Everyone called them the Triumvirate. These 3 were not like other creatures in space. They were special. They were strong. They were the ones everyone feared and respected. The first was Hyun. He belonged to a race called the Velkari. Hyun could do things that seemed impossible. He could bend time and space with just his thoughts. When he wanted to, he could make seconds feel like hours. He could make objects appear and disappear. Once, he stopped a war by simply showing up in the sky above a planet. The people below saw him floating there, glowing with power, and they put down their weapons. They knew they could not fight someone who controlled reality itself. The second was Mirai. She was a draconian, and she had lived for 40,000 years. Her skin was covered in scales that no weapon could pierce. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had fought in more battles than anyone could count. Mirai was so strong that she could punch through mountains. She could fly faster than sound itself. Once she grabbed a falling moon with her bare hands and pushed it back into orbit. Her people told stories about her strength, and those stories scared entire star systems into following the rules. The third was Doyen. He was different from Hyun and Mirai. Doyen was not just one person. He was billions of minds connected together, all thinking as one. His species, the Cerebrians, had learned to link their brains across space. When Doyen thought about something, billions of other Cerebrians thought about it too. This made him the smartest being in the galaxy. He could solve problems before others even understood them. He could predict what would happen with almost perfect accuracy. Nothing surprised Doyen because he had already thought of every possibility. Together, these 3 had never failed. When the council needed to show power, they sent the Triumvirate. When a planet refused to obey, the Triumvirate went to convince them. They never needed to fight. Just showing up was enough. Everyone in the galaxy knew the stories about them. Everyone knew that fighting the Triumvirate was like fighting the universe itself. One day, a small ship came back to the council with strange news. They had found a new planet. The people there called it Earth. The species called themselves humans. The ship's captain showed pictures and data to the council members. What they saw made them laugh. Humans were weak. They had no fur or scales to protect them. They had no claws or sharp teeth. They could not fly. They could not breathe in water. They had no special powers. They were just soft pink creatures who wore clothes because their own skin was too thin. Even more amusing, they were still stuck on their own planet. They used loud rockets that burned fuel to barely reach their own moon. They had not even visited other planets in their own solar system. A researcher named Jiwon studied the data carefully. She noticed something odd. Humans were always fighting each other. They had been fighting for their entire history. They made weapons out of everything. They fought over land, over resources, over ideas. They even fought over invisible lines they drew on maps. The researcher looked at the numbers and frowned. "We should be careful," Jiwon said to the council. "These humans are strange. They have no natural weapons, but they killed all the big predators on their planet. They are weak, but they survive in deserts and in ice. They fight each other constantly, but they also work together. I think we should study them more before we make contact." The council director, Tae-hyung, waved his hand dismissively. He had been running the council for 3,000 years. He had seen hundreds of new species. None of them had ever been a real problem. "You worry too much," Tae-hyung said. "Look at them. They cannot even leave their planet. We have ships that cross galaxies. We have warriors who cannot die. We have beings who can change reality. What can these humans possibly do to us? No, we will bring them into the council now. It is better to control them while they are still primitive." The other council members agreed. They had a simple plan. Go to Earth. Show the humans how powerful the council was. Make them understand that resistance was pointless. Accept their surrender. Welcome them to galactic society. Simple, easy. They had done it hundreds of times before, but Tae-hyung wanted to make sure there would be no problems. He wanted to send a message that every species would hear about. He wanted humanity to know from the very first moment that they had no choice but to obey. So he called for the Triumvirate. Hyun, Mirai, and Doyen stood before the council. Taehyung smiled at them. We have a simple job for you, he said. Go to this planet Earth. Show these humans what real power looks like. They will surrender immediately. It should take no more than a few days. Perhaps a week at most, Hyun nodded. He had done this many times. It was always the same. They arrived. The primitives saw their power. Everyone bowed. Everyone joined the council. Easy. Mireille stretched her wings. She was actually a bit disappointed. She had hoped for a real challenge. But looking at the images of these weak, hairless creatures, she knew this would be boring. Still, duty was duty. Doyen connected to his collective consciousness and ran through billions of calculations. Every scenario showed the same result. Complete success, zero risk. The humans would see the triumvirate and immediately understand they had no chance. It was simple mathematics. As the triumvirate prepared to leave, Jiwon tried one more time. Please, she said. Just wait. Let me study them more. There is something about these humans that does not make sense. How did such weak creatures become the dominant species on their planet? How did they survive so many dangers? Their planet has had ice ages, meteor strikes, volcanic eruptions, and they survived all of it. Does that not seem strange? Taehyung shook his head. It just means they are lucky. Their luck ends now. The triumvirate will show them their place in the galaxy. He turned to Hyun, Mirai, and Doyen. Go. Return with their surrender. Make it quick. Make it absolute. Show the galaxy that no one can refuse the council. The triumvirate boarded their flagship. It was a ship the size of a small moon. It carried enough power to destroy planets. It had shields that could survive flying through a star. It was the most powerful vessel ever built. As the ship prepared to jump to faster than light speed, Doyen felt something odd. A tiny calculation that did not quite fit. An anomaly in the data. He ignored it. After all, it was just a 0.01% variation. Nothing important. Nothing that could possibly matter. The ship jumped into hyperspace heading toward Earth. The journey would take 3 days. The mission was supposed to take 1 week. After that, the triumvirate would return home with another easy victory to add to their legend. But they would never return. The 3 most powerful beings in the galaxy were flying toward a small blue planet, completely confident in their strength. They had no idea that they were not flying toward primitives. They were flying toward something that had been waiting for visitors, something that had been preparing for this moment since the first human looked up at the stars and wondered what else was out there. They were flying toward humanity, and humanity was ready. When the flagship came out of hyperspace, Earth was right in front of them. The planet looked beautiful from orbit. Blue oceans covered most of it. White clouds swirled in patterns. Green and brown land masses spread across the surface. It looked peaceful. It looked harmless. Hyun stood at the front of the command center. He reached out with his power and felt the planet below. Billions of minds. Billions of humans all living their small lives, completely unaware that everything was about to change. He smiled. This would be over quickly. The ship moved into a lower orbit. It was so massive that it created its own gravity. On Earth's surface, people noticed strange things happening. The tides changed. Water moved in unusual patterns. Electronic devices flickered and failed. The sky lit up with colors that should not be there. Auroras appeared at the equator, dancing across the sky in the middle of the day. Yun prepared to make first contact. He gathered his power and sent his voice into the mind of every human on the planet. All at once, 8 billion people heard him speaking directly inside their heads. Some screamed. Some fell to their knees. Some thought they were going crazy. People of Earth, Hyun said, his voice echoing in their minds. I speak for the Galactic Council. We have watched your species develop. We have decided it is time for you to join the greater community of intelligent life. You will surrender your planet to Council authority. You will follow Council laws. You will accept Council guidance. Do this peacefully and you will prosper. Refuse and you will face consequences you cannot imagine. You have one of your days to decide. The message ended. Hyun waited. He expected panic. He expected chaos. He expected desperate calls for mercy. That was what always happened. Species realized how powerless they were and immediately gave up. Instead, something strange happened. A signal came from Earth, not from a government, not from a military. It came from a research facility in the Korean peninsula. The signal was in perfect galactic standard language. Someone had already learned how to speak their language. A calm voice spoke. It belonged to someone named Dr. Seung-won. Thank you for making contact, the doctor said. We are very interested in meeting other intelligent species. However, we must decline your terms. We do not surrender our planet to anyone. We would be happy to discuss other arrangements. Would you like to talk about alternatives? Mirai laughed. It was not a kind laugh. They think they can negotiate, she said. How amusing. She looked at Hyun. Let me show them what happens when primitives refuse the council. Hyun nodded. Nothing permanent. Just a demonstration. Show them enough power that they understand resistance is pointless. Mirai flew down to Earth's surface. She chose an empty desert far from any cities. She did not want to kill anyone yet. That would come later if they kept refusing. For now, she just needed to show them what she could do. When she landed, the impact created a crater 3 miles wide. The ground shook like an earthquake. Dust rose into the sky in a massive cloud. Mirai stood in the center of the crater, her scales glowing with power. She reached out and grabbed a mountain. Her claws sank into solid rock. With a roar, she lifted the entire mountain and threw it 10 miles away. It crashed down, breaking into millions of pieces. Then she flew to a lake and with a wave of her hand, boiled all the water away in seconds. The lake became empty, just a dry crater in the ground. She flew faster and faster, breaking the sound barrier over and over. Each time she broke it, a sonic boom crashed across the landscape like thunder. She wanted them to hear it. She wanted them to feel it. She wanted them to be afraid. Finally, she stopped and spoke. Her voice was amplified so that people for hundreds of miles could hear. This is only a small taste of our power, Mirai declared. I alone could destroy your entire civilization. And I am just one of 3. Submit now or watch your cities burn. You have until sunrise tomorrow. She flew back to the flagship, confident that the demonstration had worked. Surely now the humans would realize how hopeless their situation was. The response came an hour later. The same calm voice. Dr. Seungwon sounded almost amused. Very impressive, Empress Mirai, the doctor said. Though I should point out that moving mountains and boiling lakes is not that special to us. Our planet does that on its own. We call them earthquakes and volcanoes. We have survived those for thousands of years. We have survived ice ages that covered half our planet. We have survived meteor impacts that killed most life on Earth. We hunted giant animals to extinction using nothing but pointed sticks. The doctor paused. Respectfully, you are not as scary as winter used to be. And we survived winter. We will survive you too. Now shall we try talking like civilized beings? Mirai was furious. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She wanted to fly back down and show them real destruction, but Hyun stopped her. Wait, he said. Something is wrong here. They should be terrified. Instead, they sound confident. Let me try something different. Doyen had been quiet until now. He had been connecting to Earth's information networks, searching through their data. What he found made him deeply uncomfortable. I need to show you something, Doyen said to the others. He projected images into the air. They showed human history, thousands of years of war, humans fighting with sticks and stones, then with metal swords, then with guns, then with explosives, then with weapons that could level entire cities. Every few decades, they invented new ways to kill each other. They have been at war with themselves for their entire history, Doyen explained. They know every possible way to fight. They know how to fight when they are weaker. They know how to fight when they are outnumbered. They know how to turn their own weaknesses into weapons. Look at this. He showed more images. Humans using biological weapons. Humans using chemical weapons. Humans splitting atoms to make bombs that could destroy cities. Humans sending machines into space even though they could not breathe there. Humans diving deep into oceans even though they could not breathe underwater. Humans constantly pushing beyond their limits, constantly adapting, constantly surviving. And look at this, Doyen said, his voice worried. They're stories. They're fiction. They have billions of stories about facing impossible enemies. Aliens, monsters, gods, cosmic horrors. And in almost every story, humanity finds a way to win. They prepare themselves psychologically for threats they have never seen. They imagine every possible danger and plan how to survive it. Hyun waved his hand dismissively. They are just stories. Fiction means nothing. We have real power. Watch, I will end this farce now. He gathered his quantum powers. He would phase Earth slightly out of normal time. From the human's perspective, the universe would seem to freeze. They would experience thousands of years while only hours passed outside. They would have millennia to think about their situation. Surely that would break their spirit. Hyun began the manipulation. He felt the quantum fields around Earth responding to his will. Time began to slow around the planet. Everything was working perfectly. Then something went wrong. Alarms started screaming throughout the flagship. Doyen's eyes went wide. "Stop!" he shouted. "It is a trap." But it was too late. The temporal field that Hyun had created did not surround Earth. Instead, it surrounded the flagship. The ship lurched. Time inside began to move faster. For every second that passed outside, an hour passed inside the ship. How? Hyun gasped. How did they do this? Doyen was checking the data frantically. They have been scanning us since we arrived. Every time we used our powers, they recorded it. They analyzed it. They learned how it works. Then they built devices that could redirect your temporal manipulation. They turned your own weapon against you. Another message came from Earth. Dr. Seungwon spoke again, and now there was something dangerous in that calm voice. Did you really think we would just give up? We have been preparing for first contact since we first looked at the stars. We have plans for every possible scenario. We have weapons you have never imagined. We study threats. We adapt to them. We overcome them. That is what humans do. The doctor paused. You wanted to see what humanity brings to the galaxy? Let us show you. Let us show you why we tell stories about monsters in the dark. Because we know monsters. We have lived with them. We have fought them. Sometimes when necessary, we become them. Inside the flagship, the triumvirate looked at each other. For the first time in their long lives, they felt something unfamiliar. They felt doubt. They felt uncertainty. They felt the beginning of fear. Because they had finally met a species that did not surrender when faced with superior power. They had met a species that fought back. They had met humanity. The flagship was trapped in accelerated time. Every second that passed outside meant an hour passed inside. The triumvirate could feel it. They were aging faster. Their bodies were experiencing time differently than the rest of the universe. If they did not escape soon, years would pass for them while only days passed for Earth. Yun tried to reverse the temporal field, but he could not. The humans had studied his power signature perfectly. They knew exactly how his abilities worked. Every time he tried to manipulate time, the field around the ship grew stronger. His own power was feeding the trap. We underestimated them, Doyen said quietly. He was connecting to Earth's networks again, searching for information. What he found shocked him. They have contingency plans, detailed plans for first contact with hostile aliens. They have had these plans since the 1950s. They have been preparing for us for almost 100 years, and we never even knew they existed until a week ago. He showed the others what he had discovered. Plans. Thousands of pages of plans. How to fight enemies that could fly. How to fight enemies that were stronger. How to fight enemies that were smarter. How to fight enemies with powers humans did not understand. The plans were detailed, practical, and terrifying. They think like predators, Doyen continued. They study their prey before hunting. They find weaknesses. They exploit them. And we just showed them all our powers. We demonstrated exactly how our abilities work. We gave them everything they needed to trap us. Mirai was furious. Then I will go down there and break them with my bare hands. I do not need powers. I have strength. I have scales that nothing can pierce. Let us see how their plans work against someone who cannot be killed. Before the others could stop her, Mirai flew down to Earth again. This time she did not go to an empty desert. She went to a military installation. She could see it from orbit. Buildings, vehicles, weapons. Primitive weapons that could not hurt her. She would destroy it all and show these humans what happened when they refused to surrender. When she landed, the base appeared empty. All the vehicles were parked neatly. All the buildings were intact. But there were no people. She walked through the base, confused. Where was everyone? Had they run away in fear? Then she saw one person, a single human standing in the center of the base. He wore a military uniform. He was young, probably in his 20s. He looked completely calm, as if he was not facing a being who could crush him without effort. My name is Jamin, the human said. I volunteered for this. I wanted to test a theory we have about you. He smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. You see, we humans have a saying, if it bleeds, we can kill it. But we also have a corollary. If it does not bleed, we will make it bleed. Mirai laughed. You think you can hurt me? My scales have survived planet-killing weapons. What can one weak human possibly do? Let us find out, Jamin said. He pressed a button on a device in his hand. The entire base exploded. But it was not a normal explosion. Pipes buried underground released liquid nitrogen, gas so cold it could freeze almost anything instantly. Mirai was covered in it. Her scales, which could resist energy weapons and high heat, suddenly experienced extreme cold. Then a split second later, the base released superheated plasma. Extreme cold followed by extreme heat over and over, too fast for her to react. Mirai heard a sound she had never heard before. Her scales were cracking. The rapid temperature changes were causing thermal shock. Her supposedly indestructible armor was breaking, and then she felt something she had not felt in 40,000 years. Pain. She screamed and flew upward, escaping the trap. Her scales were damaged. They would heal. But the fact that they could be damaged at all was terrifying. She looked down at the base. It was completely destroyed, and Jamin was gone. She could not see his body anywhere. Either he had escaped or he had died in the explosion he created. As she flew back to the flagship, a message broadcast across all frequencies. It was Jamin's voice, recorded before the explosion. To all humans watching, it works. Their scales can be broken. They can feel pain. They can be hurt. Now we know how to kill gods. Begin the hunt. Mirai returned to the ship, shaken. She had survived, but barely. And the message was clear. That human had sacrificed himself just to learn how to hurt her. What kind of species did that? What kind of species traded their lives just for information? Meanwhile, Doyen was having his own problems. He had tried to take control of Earth's computer networks. He was a collective consciousness of billions of minds. Controlling primitive computers should be easy. But when he entered Earth's internet, he found something waiting for him. A human consciousness. Somehow, impossibly, a human was inside the digital network. Her name was Sora. She was a lieutenant in some military unit, and she had connected herself to the internet using experimental technology. Her neural signals were being broadcast directly into the digital world. Doyen could process information billions of times faster than her. He could destroy her digital presence with a thought. But she did not fight him. Instead, she started showing him things. Images, videos, data, all from human history. She showed him wars, genocides, torture, cruelty beyond imagination. Humans doing terrible things to other humans. Doyen tried to pull away, but she kept showing him more. Cities burned. Children killed. Entire populations destroyed. The data was overwhelming, flooding his consciousness with humanity's darkest moments. Look at us. Sora transmitted directly into his mind. Look at what we are capable of. This is what we do to each other. This is what we do to our own species. And we have learned to hate it. We made laws against it. We created justice systems. We built societies that punish this kind of behavior. We know we are monsters. We choose to be better. Then the images changed. She showed him hospitals, schools, art, music, literature. Humans helping each other. Humans building. Humans creating. Humans choosing peace when they could choose war. But here is what you need to understand, Sora continued. We can be both. We can be monsters and we can be angels. Right now you are giving us a reason to remember how to be monsters. You came to our planet. You threatened us. You demanded our surrender. So now we will show you what happens when you threaten humanity. She flooded his consciousness with more data, military tactics, weapons designs, battle strategies. Humans had thousands of years of experience fighting and killing. They knew every dirty trick, every ambush, every way to make a stronger enemy bleed. You think you are predators, Sora said, but you have never faced prey that hunts back. You have never faced something that learns from pain, that weaponizes fear, that turns every defeat into a lesson. We have been fighting ourselves for 10,000 years. You are just another threat, and we are very good at dealing with threats. Doyen pulled out of the network, gasping. For the first time in his existence, his collective consciousness was not in agreement. Different parts of his mind were calculating different outcomes. Some said they should surrender. Some said they should fight. Some said they should run. His billions of minds, which always thought as one, were fracturing into uncertainty. Back on the flagship, the three members of the triumvirate gathered together. They were trapped in accelerated time. They were hurt and confused. And for the first time since they had become the galaxy's champions, they were losing. Yun spoke first. We need to end this. I will use my ultimate power. I will manipulate reality itself. I will erase humanity from existence, rewrite the universe so they never evolved. No, Doyen shouted. That is exactly what they want. They have been studying you. They will have a countermeasure prepared. Every time we use our powers, they learn more. Every time we attack, they adapt. We are teaching them how to kill us. But Hyun did not listen. He was desperate. He gathered all his quantum power. He would fix this. He would save them. He would show these humans that there were some powers they could not overcome. He began to manipulate reality. Space twisted, time fractured, the laws of physics bent to his will. He reached back through time, preparing to prevent humanity from ever existing. And then Earth responded. A team of human scientists, led by someone named Dr. Nari, activated a device. It collapsed the quantum field around Earth's moon, creating an area of absolute quantum uncertainty. The device used Hyun's own power signature, amplified and reflected back at him. Hyun found himself caught between two quantum states. He existed and did not exist at the same time. He could see infinite timelines all at once. In some, humanity surrendered. In others, humanity conquered the galaxy. In most, humanity destroyed the triumvirate completely. He was trapped in probability itself, unable to collapse into a single reality. Through his quantum haze, Hyun finally understood. Humans did not need his power. They lived in quantum uncertainty naturally. Every human constantly existed in a superposition of potential actions. They could choose violence or peace, creation or destruction, surrender or resistance. This is what made them unpredictable. This is what made them dangerous. This is what made them human. They weaponized chaos itself, and no amount of power could control chaos. Far away from Earth, the Galactic Council watched in horror. They had sent the triumvirate to accept a simple surrender. Instead, they watched as the three most powerful beings in the galaxy were trapped, hurt, and confused by a species that still used chemical rockets to reach space. Director Tae-hyung called an emergency meeting. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the Great Chamber. They all watched the same data streams. They all saw the same impossible events. The triumvirate, beings who had never failed, were failing. "We must act immediately," Tae-hyung declared. "Send the full council fleet. 200 ships. We will extract the triumvirate and deal with these humans permanently. We will sterilize their planet. We cannot allow such a dangerous species to exist." Most of the council agreed. This threat needed to be eliminated. But Ji-won, the researcher who had warned them from the beginning, stood up. "No," she said firmly. "You are making the same mistake again. You are not understanding what we are dealing with." "What do you mean?" Tae-hyung demanded. "They are primitives with clever tricks. We will crush them with overwhelming force." Ji-won shook her head. "They are not defeating the triumvirate through superior power. They are using asymmetric warfare. They study their enemies. They find weaknesses. They adapt. Every time we show them our strength, they learn from it. If we send a fleet, we are just giving them more targets to study, more technology to reverse engineer, more tactics to learn." She pulled up data on the screens. "Look at their history. Humans have fought wars against enemies with better weapons, better training, better numbers, and they often won. They won by being unpredictable, by refusing to fight fair, by using the environment, by sacrificing themselves to gather intelligence. This is what they do. This is what they are good at." But the council did not listen. They voted to send the fleet. 200 warships that had pacified entire civilizations, ships that carried weapons capable of destroying planets. The fleet would reach Earth in 1 week at faster than light speed. The Triumvirate's flagship intercepted this communication. Dr. Shungwon's team on Earth also intercepted it. They had cracked the Council's encryption within hours of first contact. The humans knew the fleet was coming. They knew they had 1 week to prepare. Dr. Sungwon gathered the defense team. There was no panic, no fear, just calm, focused planning. 1 week, the doctor said. That gives us time. We have learned much from studying the Triumvirate. Now we prepare for the fleet. Get me everything we know about their weapons, their shields, their tactics. We need options. Meanwhile, on the flagship, the situation was getting worse. Time inside the ship was still accelerated. Days had passed for the crew while only hours had passed outside. They were running out of supplies. Their equipment was aging rapidly, and they were no closer to escaping the temporal trap. Hyun was still trapped in quantum uncertainty, flickering between existence and non-existence. Mirai's scales were slowly healing, but she was weaker than she had been in millennia. Doyen's collective consciousness was still fractured. different parts of his mind arguing about what to do. A message came from Earth. This time it was not Dr. Shungwon. It was someone new. A military commander named Young-ho. He requested a direct meeting with the Triumvirate. No weapons, no tricks. Just talking. The Triumvirate was suspicious. Why would the humans offer to talk now when they were winning? But they agreed. They had no better options. A shuttle brought Commander Young-ho to the flagship. He came alone, unarmed, wearing a simple uniform. He looked around at the damaged ship and the exhausted crew. "You came to conquer us," Young-ho began. "That was your mission. Accept our surrender and bring us into the council." But that was never going to work. Do you want to know why? He did not wait for an answer. Because we have been conquering ourselves for 10,000 years. You think you are the first superior force to demand our submission? We have faced emperors who claimed divine right to rule. We have faced dictators who thought they were destined to control the world. We have faced zealots who believed their gods commanded them to destroy us. We have overthrown them all. Young-ho looked at each of them in turn. You are stronger than us, smarter than us, more advanced than us, but we do not surrender to strength. We study it. We find its limits. We exploit its weaknesses. That is what makes us dangerous, Mirai growled. So you came here to gloat? To mock us while we are trapped? No, Young-ho said. I came to make you an offer. Work with us. Tell the council that you succeeded, but through diplomacy instead of force. In exchange, we will share what makes humanity valuable. We will teach you how to think like us. Because our strength is not just in our ability to fight. It is in our ability to adapt, to learn, to overcome challenges. Doyen spoke, his voice uncertain. Why would you offer this? You have defeated us. You could let us die here, trapped in this temporal field. Because we do not want war, Young-ho said simply. We want to explore the galaxy. We want to meet other species. We want to learn and share knowledge. But we will not be conquered. We will not be controlled. If you work with us, we can find a way forward. If you continue to fight us, then yes, we will destroy you. And when the council fleet arrives, we will destroy them too. And we will learn from every ship we take down. Eventually, we will have faster-than-light technology. We will have energy weapons. We will have everything the council has, plus something the council does not have. What is that? Hyun asked, his voice weak from his quantum prison. Motivation, Young-ho said. The council has been peaceful for millennia. They have forgotten how to fight a real war. But we remember. We will always remember, and if you force us to become your enemy, we will be the most dangerous enemy you have ever faced. Mirai laughed, but it was a bitter sound. And what happens when your people learn that we failed? When they realize that weak humans defeated the mighty triumvirate? What then? Young-ho's expression became serious. Then they will start thinking of you as prey. And humanity is very good at hunting. We hunted every large predator on our planet. We hunted some of them to extinction. We did not do it because we were stronger. We did it because we were persistent. We never gave up. We learned their patterns. We set traps. We worked together. And eventually we won. The triumvirate looked at each other. They were facing an impossible choice. Accept this human's offer and lie to the council, or tell the truth and watch as humanity became the galaxy's greatest threat. Doyen's billions of minds finally reached consensus. Show me the calculations, he said to Young-ho. What happens if the council fleet attacks? Show me your projections. Young-ho handed him a data device. Doyen connected to it and processed the information instantly. What he saw terrified him. The humans had run simulations. Hundreds of them. In every scenario where the council attacked, humanity survived. It took losses, sometimes terrible losses, but humanity survived. And within one generation, they would be in space with technology stolen from the wreckage of council ships. They will remember who attacked first, Doyen said quietly. They will remember who tried to exterminate them, and they will seek revenge. Hyun, still trapped between realities, could see infinite timelines. In the ones where humans joined the galaxy peacefully, they became the greatest explorers and innovators. They solved problems other species could not solve. They brought new ideas and new hope. But in the timelines where they were attacked, they became monsters. They weaponized everything. They showed no mercy. They became exactly what the council feared. Mirai thought about what Jaemin had done. He sacrificed himself just to learn how to hurt her. What kind of species did that? What kind of species valued knowledge over individual survival? And what would a species like that become if you gave them a reason to fight? The triumvirate made their decision. They would accept Young-Ho's offer. They would work with humanity. They would tell the council that Earth had agreed to join peacefully. It was a lie, but it was a necessary lie, because the alternative was too terrible to consider. But before they could transmit their decision to the council, something happened. Something none of them expected. The ship's sensors detected a massive energy signature approaching from deep space. It was not the council fleet. It was something else. Something ancient. Something that had been watching them this entire time, and suddenly everything changed. Because they were not alone anymore. There was something else out there. Something that made the triumvirate and humanity both look like children playing games. Something that had been waiting to see what would happen when the galaxy's mightiest met Earth's defenders. The real test was about to begin. The energy signature was unlike anything the triumvirate had ever encountered. It was not coming from the council fleet. It was coming from somewhere much farther away. Somewhere outside the 3 galaxies that the council controlled, and it was moving toward Earth at impossible speed. Dr. Sungwon's team detected it at the same time. Their instruments showed something massive, something that existed in multiple dimensions at once, something that should not be possible according to any physics they understood. "What is that?" Young-Ho asked, still on the flagship with the triumvirate. Doyen's face went pale. His billions of connected minds searched through every piece of galactic history he knew. Finally, he found something. An old legend. A story that most species did not believe. "A watcher," he whispered. "What is a watcher?" Young-Ho demanded. "Ancient beings," Doyen explained, his voice shaking. "They existed before the current civilizations. Before the council. Before anyone. They observe younger species. They judge whether those species are worthy to exist. Most species never see them. Those that do usually do not survive long enough to tell anyone." The entity manifested in the space between Earth and the flagship. It did not have a body, not in any way they could understand. It was a presence, a consciousness that existed across multiple dimensions. When it spoke, every thinking being in the solar system heard it inside their minds. "The experiment concludes," the Watcher said. Its voice was cold, without emotion. "Humanity displays characteristics deemed dangerous to galactic stability. Unlimited adaptability, weaponized creativity, refusal to accept limitations. Standard protocol requires extinction." Hyun suddenly understood. "You led us here. You wanted to see how we would face humanity. This was never about conquest. It was a test." The Watcher did not confirm or deny this. It simply began its work. Reality itself started to change around Earth. The Watcher was going to erase humanity from existence. Not just kill them, but remove them from all timelines. Make it so they had never evolved in the first place. The triumvirate faced their defining moment. They had come to conquer humanity. They had failed. They had been trapped, hurt, and humiliated. Now they had a choice. They could do nothing and let the Watcher destroy humanity. They would be free. They could return to the council and never speak of this failure again. Or they could stand with humanity against something infinitely more powerful than themselves. Mirai spoke first. 40,000 years ago, I took an oath. I swore to protect the weak from cosmic threats. I forgot that oath. I became proud. I became cruel. But I remember it now." She looked at the others. "I will stand with humanity, even if it means my death." Doyen's collective consciousness calculated their chances of survival if they resisted the Watcher. The number was almost 0. But then he thought about what Young-Ho had said. What Sora had shown him. Humans had beaten impossible odds before. Not through calculation, but through will. Through refusal to give up. "My calculations say we cannot win," Doyen said. "But humanity has taught me that probability is not destiny. I will fight." Hyun was still trapped between quantum states, seeing infinite timelines. In the ones where humanity died here, the galaxy became safe, controlled, orderly. But it also became stagnant, dead, boring. Only in the timelines where humanity survived did the galaxy have a real future. A future of growth, change, and possibility. "I have seen every possible future," Hyun said. "The ones where humanity lives are better. I choose those futures." The triumvirate combined their power. Mirai's immortal strength became their anchor and physical reality. Doyen's collective consciousness merged with Earth's computer networks, connecting human and alien intelligence. Yun, embracing his quantum uncertainty, allowed human creativity to guide his reality manipulation. Together, they created something unprecedented. On Earth, Dr. Nari's team linked their quantum devices to the Triumvirate's power. Commander Young-ho coordinated defensive forces. Dr. Sungwon directed communications. Lieutenant Sora connected her consciousness to the network, adding human intuition to alien processing power. And Jamin's final sacrifice was not forgotten. His data on breaking seemingly indestructible defenses became the key to understanding the Watcher. Together, human and alien, they created a shield. Not a normal shield that blocked attacks. This shield worked differently. It hit Earth across probability itself. The shield made Earth exist in quantum superposition, present and absent, real and unreal, simultaneously in all states. The Watcher could not delete what it could not perceive across all dimensions. The Watcher attacked. Reality fractured. Time stopped. Space inverted. The laws of physics broke and reformed. The power was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. But the shield held. Humanity and the Triumvirate held together against impossible force. And then suddenly it was over. The Watcher's presence vanished. The attack stopped. The solar system became quiet. Earth was safe. But something had changed. Something fundamental. When the Council fleet arrived 1 week later, they found Earth intact but unreachable. A quantum barrier surrounded the entire solar system. Sensors could not penetrate it. Ships could not pass through it. The barrier used energy signatures that matched the Triumvirate's powers. Inside the barrier, everything appeared normal. Outside, the system existed in a state of probability flux. The Triumvirate was gone. Their flagship remained in orbit around Earth, its systems dead, its crew evacuated safely to the planet below. But Hyun, Mirai, and Doyen were nowhere to be found. No bodies, no final messages, nothing except the quantum barrier that protected Earth and trapped it at the same time. Council scientists studied the barrier. They concluded that the Triumvirate had transformed themselves into the barrier itself. They had become a permanent shield, protecting humanity from external threats while preventing humanity from leaving their own solar system. A cage and a guardian, both at once. Researcher Jiwon found one final message encoded in quantum fluctuations. A message from the Triumvirate to the Council. She played it for Director Taehyung and the other leaders. "We came as conquerors," the message said. "We leave as guardians. Humanity is too dangerous to remain isolated, but too valuable to destroy. We have become their cage and their shield. When they are ready, when they have matured beyond their violent instincts, this barrier will fall. Until then, we watch. We wait, we protect. Humanity taught us our final lesson. The mightiest power is not domination. It is sacrifice." The Council officially declared the Sol system quarantined. The Triumvirate was listed as missing in action. No species was permitted to approach Earth. The system was now called the Quiet Zone, and everyone understood the real message. The three most powerful beings in the galaxy had gone to meet humanity and were never found again. On Earth, Dr. Sungwon and Commander Young-ho stood on a hill looking up at the night sky. They could see through the barrier. The stars were still there. The galaxy was waiting, but they could not reach it yet. "How long will it take us to break through?" Young-ho asked. Dr. Sungwon smiled. "We are already working on it. Lieutenant Sora estimates we will understand the barrier's quantum mechanics in 50 years. Another 50 to develop countermeasures. Maybe 100 years total before we can leave on our own terms." "The Council thinks it will take 1,000 years, Young-ho said. "They underestimate us," Dr. Sungwon replied. "They always do. They will learn. When we break through this barrier, we will not be the same species that refused to surrender. We will be stronger, smarter, better, because that is what every obstacle makes us. Every challenge is a lesson. Every barrier is a blueprint." Deep within the quantum barrier, existing in states between dimensions, the Triumvirate watched. They were not dead. Death would have been simpler. They existed now as conscious energy, aware but not physical, powerful but trapped by their own choice. They felt humanity below, already studying the barrier, already working to escape. Mirai laughed, a sound that echoed across quantum states. "We created the perfect prison, one that humans will dedicate themselves to escaping. And in doing so, they will become exactly what we feared." "Not feared," Hyun responded. "Hoped for. The galaxy has grown stagnant under the Council. Everyone follows rules. Everyone stays safe. But safety breeds weakness. Humanity will bring chaos when they break free. And from chaos comes evolution. From struggle comes growth. We were sent to report on humanity, Doyen observed. We failed to conquer them, but we are reporting back. Not with words, but with our absence. Our silence is the loudest warning the galaxy has ever received. We sent the mightiest among us. They were never found again. Every species that hears this story will ask the same question. What could make gods disappear? Across the galaxy, the story spread, not as official history, but as whispered legend. They sent the triumvirate to meet humanity, beings who could manipulate reality, who had lived for epochs, who had never known defeat. They went to accept a primitive species' surrender. Instead, they vanished. Not killed, not captured. Simply gone, as if humanity looked at gods and said, "You do not belong here," and reality agreed. Young species heard the tale and asked what makes humanity so dangerous. The elders responded that humans were not stronger or more advanced, but they refused to accept limitations. They weaponized everything, including their own weaknesses.